most welcome to Historiesbanorna, History Reconnaissance, and Fighting the Soviet Superfortress. The story of why the United States and Great Britain in the 1950s had to develop fighter tactics to defend against attacks by Soviet B-29 rip-off heavy bombers. And please, like, share and subscribe. It means a lot to us. At the end of World War II, the Soviet Union saw the need for a strategic bombing capability like that of the US Army Air Forces. The Soviet Air Arm had their Petlyakov PE-8 4-engine heavy bombers in service at the start of the war. In 1945, only 93 were built and they were already obsolete. By that time, the US B-29 Superfortress heavy bomber had been in service for more than a year, and in 1946 almost 4,000 had been produced. This was a cause for great concern, and the Soviet leader Joseph Stalin ordered the development of a comparable bomber. The US twice refused to supply the Soviet Union with B-29s under Lend-Lease. However, on 4 occasions during 1944, B-29s made emergency landings in Soviet territory. These bombers were interned and kept by the Soviets. The US demanded the return of the bombers, but were refused. 3 repairable B-29s were flown to Moscow and delivered to the Tupolev aeroplane manufacturer. 1 B-29 was dismantled. The second was used for test flights and training, and the third was left as a standard for cross-reference. The 4th B-29 was returned to the US along with its crew in late 1945. Instead of continuing with Tupolev's own comparable bomber, the ANT-64, a gigantic reverse engineering project began, involving some 900 Soviet factories and research institutes. 1 year and 105,000 drawings later it was ready for production. By the end of the second year, the Soviet industry had produced 20 copies of the B-29. The name was the Tupolev Tu-4. The first flight was on May 19, 1947. Serial production started immediately, and the type entered large-scale service in 1949. British and American air officers raised the alarm that the Tu-4 was capable of bombing cities in the United States or Great Britain on a one-way mission. This was the background for maneuvers and air combat practice conducted by US and British Air Forces in 1948, involving fleets of B-29s. The test was conducted by RF Central Fighter Establishment and cooperative US B-29 groups, and involved demonstration of recommended methods of attack against B-29 Tu-4 type bombers, using RAF Gloucester Meteor and de Havilland Vampire jet fighters. Now, parts of a film from the 1950s, informing British pilots of the characteristics of the B-29/Tu-4, and teaching them tactics to combat and defeat formation of these Soviet bombers.
The defense of this country has constituted a serious problem ever since the introduction of aerial warfare. The difficulties of the problem have been greatly accentuated by the introduction of weapons of mass destruction and heavily armed bombers, typified by the B-29, capable of carrying vast loads over great distances.
We're going to discuss fighter tactics against the B-29. Now we have 2 devices to help you over this. They are models and 16mm projection. Now the basis on which this film has been evolved is by actual trials made by the Central Fighter Establishment in conjunction with the 3rd Air Division of the United States Air Force. The material is therefore real and not based on any haphazard ideas or personal or individual approach. Well, first of all, we will deal with this problem from the point of view of the B-29.
The aircraft has a crew of 11. The aircraft commander, first pilot, bombardier, navigator, radio operator, engineer, and 5 gunners. The B-29 armament consists of 12 50 caliber machine guns with an optional 20mm cannon for the tail mount. Rate of fire for the 50 caliber machine gun is 700 rounds a minute. Total load of ammunition is 12,000 rounds, or 1,000 rounds per gun. All guns, with the exception of the tail mount, are mounted in remotely controlled turrets. Now this picture shows the disposition of the guns and turrets, which is as follows. 4 guns upper forward turret, 360 degrees azimuth, -3 to +90 degrees elevation. 2 guns lower forward turret, 360 degrees azimuth, +3 to -90 degrees elevation. 2 guns upper aft turret, 360 degrees azimuth, 0 to +90 degrees elevation. 2 guns lower aft turret, 360 degrees azimuth, +5 to -90 degrees elevation. 2 guns tail mount, optional mount for 20mm cannon, 30 degrees left and right in azimuth, +30 to -30 degrees elevation. Remote control turrets may be used singly for the single bomber defense, or in combinations of 2 or more for formation defense. Turrets may be operated by any of 4 sighting stations which are located in the nose, the top of the fuselage amidships, right waist blister and left waist blister. Each sighting station may control 1 or more turrets at any time depending upon the tactical situation. All sighting stations are equipped with computer sights, accurate from 200 yards to 1,500 yards. Total firepower of the B-29 is 8,400 rounds per minute. First we will deal with tactical use of the remote control turret system for bomber defense. The B-29 has 36 gunner turret combinations which permit any one gunner at a sighting station to bring the maximum firepower to bear on an attack within his arc of fire. This arrangement enables a single B-29 to give a good account of itself under almost any type of attack. A squadron formation of B-29s can concentrate a pattern of fire from 100 to 120 guns in any area of attack with devastating effect. I'm going to give you a brief summary of the results obtained and the conclusions arrived at after the recent trials in which the Meteor 4 and the Vampire aircraft were used. These trials were based on various types of attack recommended by United States Air Force officers who had carried out similar trials in the United States. Having shown you the performance and the details of the B-29, we will now pass on to the fighter attacks. I am now going to demonstrate to you the 2 recommended forms of attack, after which I shall show you a film covering the actions in full. Now the first of these recommended attacks is the high quarter. Now in the high quarter attack, the fighter's position is 3,000 feet above and 3,000 yards to one side of the target, flying on a parallel course. It should aim to commence its attack from a position slightly ahead of the target and traveling at approximately the same speed. From this point, it turns through 90 degrees towards the target, which should then appear approximately dead ahead of the fighter. At this stage, opposite bank is applied and the curve of pursuit is established. The head-on will give you the best chance of complete tactical surprise, and with practice should offer you very good results against the B-29 and is recommended. Head-on attacks can be coordinated with high quarter attacks. Now this may be an effective method of breaking up large formations of bombers. Once this has been done, individual attacks should be able to deal with them. Well, I've done my best to demonstrate with models the various types of attacks. Now I'm going to show you a film of aircraft actually carrying out the last two. Lights. The Meteor is equipped with four 20mm guns capable of firing 620 rounds per minute each, and with ammunition for approximately 15 seconds fire. A gyro gun sight is fitted. Following combat films were taken at altitudes between 10,000 feet and 20,000 feet, but initial trials were carried out between 30,000 and 35,000 feet. It will therefore be appreciated that during the high quarter attacks, greater angles off within range can be obtained at these lower altitudes. In formation head-on attacks, when the B-29s are flying on a broad front, the fighters should turn in line astern, and on the run-in form into loose echelon, port or stop. If the B-29s are flying on a narrow front, the fighters turn in line astern and carry out the attack individually about 1,500 yards apart. It must be remembered that in all cases the fighters break away above the bombers. In coordinated quarter attacks, the fighters position themselves in pairs either side of the bombers and attack from alternative sides in rapid succession. The sections, after breaking away, form up on the opposite side to their previous position. The number 2 in a section should position himself outside and slightly ahead of his leader, flying about 50 feet above. He should turn in at approximately the same time as his leader and execute a similar attack, keeping approximately 800 yards behind.
That's all folks. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.